You will still be able to see the presentation. You will still be able to see the presentation. We just won't be able to see you, which we'll be sharing our screen and showing you a presentation. So it's just good. Bandwidth wise, audio takes a little bit and video takes a lot. So that's why turning off your video will really help if anything becomes jittery or slow.
Thank you.
And Rachel is going to mute everybody once we get started so that we don't have any interruptions during it.
Yeah, so we're just
So
still seeing people filter in, so.
Yeah. So we'll just give it a couple minutes as
Mhm.
people get filter in. Yeah, feel free if you want in the chat to say where you're from. I know we have people signed up from all across Canada.
How exciting. I'm Helen from Edmonton.
Hello, Helen.
Good to see smiling faces.
I know for the other pre-AGM workshops, CFUW's been interested in where people are joining from, just to get an overall sense of participation levels, I think, from across various clubs and country and
Got Ontario, BC.
And Rachel, how many did you say were registered today?
We had 91 registered. I find I usually would subtract around 20 to 30 because people sometimes have other obligations, but yeah, we're at 52 right now. So people are filtering in slower, so I feel we can start whenever. And
okay, so welcome to today's technology webinar. I am Amy McLeod, and with me is Rachel Denault. I am in Edmonton, Alberta. Rachel is in Ottawa, Ontario. And we are going to teach you a little bit. We're just going to touch on a whole lot of the sort of important topics of technology, which you can use for club activities. There's, of course, many more technology you could use, but these are going to be the main points clubs should consider using for their various club activities. We're welcoming people from all across Canada, so welcome to all of you. And we want to acknowledge that we are meeting across Canada, which is across many Indigenous territories, and we are very privileged to live in such a lovely country that originally belonged to the Indigenous people. In Edmonton, Alberta, I'm on Treaty 6 land, and Rachel, in Ottawa, you are?
on the Anishinaabeg land.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. And with that, we will get started and more people will filter in. So I'm going to share my screen and you will all see my presentation in a second. Hopefully, seeing my presentation without the software? Okay, good. Okay, so this is what I want you all to do. Don't worry about writing notes. Don't worry about trying to write down everything we say. As I said, it's being recorded. You can watch it many times in the future. I want you to sit back and just absorb and watch and see all the interesting technology you can use. So don't worry about capturing every detail. And Rachel's going to also send out a copy of the slides to everyone that is registered for the meeting today. So this is what's on our agenda. It's a 1-hour webinar. We'll be about 5 minutes on each topic, about 10 minutes for the examples at the end. Some of these will take a little less than 5 minutes, but that's roughly what it is. I'll be doing about 2/3 of the topics. Rachel will be doing about 1/3 of the topics on things she's well versed in. And with that, we'll get started. Now, one thing I want to do is introduce you all to today's technology. So it's important to sort of realize for the technology used for clubs, really there's two main things you need. You need some sort of device, so your smartphone, computer, tablet, whatever you may have, and the internet. And our computers have come a long way in the last 50 years. From being computers that took up the size of a room, now we can carry these computers around in our pocket. And so it's a very portable, usable technology that anybody can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, wherever they are that's connected to the internet. Now, the internet is less sort of known by people as to what it is. So you can sort of think of how old was I when these various things came about. And the internet started with just a few different institutions really managed by the military being connected and starting to share information in 1969. And then slowly over time, more links happened, mostly between academic institutions and military institutions, with a couple connections out to London and Norway. Email was invented in 1971, and a common language started to be used to send files back and forth. And this common language needed, because all the computers needed to talk to each other. So the basic bulletin board system of just sending messages that anybody could see, just like your bulletin board where you work, you post something and anybody who happens to walk by the bulletin board can see it, sort of started. And then as time progressed, more and more different institutions joined on, more places across the world. And it started becoming so big, there was no single computer or network that could really handle all the information. So it became very decentralized. So each one of these different sort of nodes or places ended up becoming its own sort of data center or its own network. And they started being linked. So all the information wasn't stored in one spot, it was stored at various places. And then there was linkages and all the computers, again, talking about the same language. And by 1993, it was truly a global network, although still mainly centered in the United States. Many other countries had joined on to this internet thing, and it became much more widely used. By 2000, there was issues with how many computers were joining, even though in general, less than 5% of users, all these countries in red, less than 5% of the users in country, of the people in countries really even use the internet, with Australia, sort of Northern Europe, Canada, and the US being slightly higher with between 25 and 40%. But over the next 12 years, that changed dramatically. Many more people had personal computers at home. They could afford the connection fees to the internet. And Canada even had more users than the United States, with about 85% of the population in Canada actually using the internet, with some slow spaces, mainly due to the infrastructure still in Africa. Now, this global network, as I said, is based off data centers that are all linked together. So these data centers exist in various places in Canada, US, and other countries. And they're basically giant complexes with many, many servers, huge cooling units, because these servers generate a lot of heat, and they are connected by hard lines. So across land, it's easier, but across the oceans, there is all of these undersea cables that connect the internet and all these data centers. And just like the national power grid and other big infrastructures, they are susceptible to issues. So like fishing trawlers, anchors, earthquakes, even a shark actually caught one of the cables about 1 kilometer down in one of them. And there's 25 ships whose sole job is to fix these cables and to keep everybody connected. Because as soon as a cable goes down, it could mean tens of millions of people are without internet until they fix it. And there are some redundancies, but sometimes the internet can go down for hours or days at a time, depending on the cable that gets cut. So it's a very key infrastructure, just like power, just like other utilities you have. It's sort of a key infrastructure to how everything works within within our country. So all of these different data servers all over the world, that is what the cloud is. It's sort of not one place, it's all over, many different points, all coordinating and acting as one solid sort of ephemeral source of data. So when people say, oh, upload it to the cloud, they mean upload it to the internet, one of these many data servers that all talk to each other. Now, there's been an explosion of what is so-called the Internet of Things. So back in 1992, there was only about 1 million computers online. But just short, about 10 years later, by 2003, it had already, by 500 times, you have 500 million devices online. And then slowly over time, many companies expanded that. And as the internet became more capable, as it was decentralized and you could access it quicker, things like smart fridges, printers, even toothbrushes today, and things like Fitbits that you wear on your hand, and plugs, smart plugs, anything that has smart in front of it connects to the internet. And as you can see, there's an exponential growth of everything is connected to the internet. So you see how key this is to the infrastructure. And it's key to many of the technologies we use to reach out for club activities in this presentation. So you are most likely to have used this way to connect to the internet. At home, you have a device, you have a router, which may or may not be connected to your modem, and basically it talks to your modem says, okay, and sends the information via either radio waves or a hard line like your cable line out to the cloud and finds the information for you. If you worked in a business, sometimes you have a device that works sort of the same or goes directly to what's so-called as a switch, which connects all of those computers together in a network. And each business may have their own server so that computers can talk to each other within the company, but can also connect out to the internet. Now, how do people in Canada connect to the internet? The most common way is wireless. So this wireless network, and it goes by radio frequencies, the way that it connects. So you're in a coffee shop, you're connecting via radio frequencies to the internet. And if you're using your mobile data instead of your Wi-Fi, both are available on smartphones, you're also using radio frequencies, but instead you are bouncing off cellular towers, and there may be lots in a dense urban area, but very few or hard to connect to areas out in the rural areas. And then dial-up is actually running over the actual phone landlines. Now, as you can see, coverage really isn't all that great across Canada, definitely in the major population zones, but there is a lot of so-called dead zones out there where you're not going to find a signal, cellular or Wi-Fi. So what do those people do? Those people sometimes have cable or telephone, but digital, not analog. And there's a difference between analog and digital signals, but that's for another day. And otherwise, they use satellites. So you can see much of northern Canada uses satellites. So the signal travels from the person's computer up to a satellite, down to an actual dish, and then out to the internet and back again. So they don't actually have a hard line or cable connected to everything else. They use satellites to bounce the information. So this is important when you're thinking of where's your club, all the people that may belong to your club, how are they actually going to connect to the internet? Is it going to be a fast connection, a slow connection? Will it be able to handle the video of a virtual meeting, or will those people have to phone in and only be able to get an audio presentation? Now we're going to move on to websites. Now, websites are an important component of every club, and most clubs do have websites. So what you want to do is you want to think of a website as a home for your club, and all the different parts of how you put together a website. A good analog for this is your house. So the domain of your website is the address of your house, wherever it is within the large cloud of the internet. That's your specific address. The website can be thought of as the house itself. Web pages are the various rooms within your house. You have your about page, maybe your donate page, your meetings page. Each one of those has much different content. The overall design of the house, well, that's architectural. Some architect has designed the whole idea of how many rooms is it going to have, what's going on, how big is it going to be. You have sort of your interior design, which makes it look nice. What's the theme of your website? What's the color scheme? You can think of the content on every web page as all the furniture or stuff within each room. And the maintenance of it, the resident of the house or a maid keeps it up. They clean it, they make sure things are in good repair. That's the equivalent of updating your content, making sure that none of the pages are broken or links are broken and everything is up to date. The web host is something I'll talk about, and it is sort of the background, behind the walls, electrical, plumbing. It's the land the house sits on and the utilities it uses. And it's all sort of running behind the scenes, but very important and critical to your website. The internet is like the giant road network that connects you to everything. And the browser, which is things like Safari, Chrome, Firefox, that's your car. You punch in a search variable and your car travels you to whatever address has that information you want. So how do you create a website? Well, it takes about 4 steps. 1, pick your address, pick your domain name. Now, the most common ones are .com, .org, .ca. .com, generally used for commercial businesses. .org, it's intended for nonprofit organizations. .ca is the ending that is specific to sort of Canada. So like .uk would be the United Kingdom and so on. Now, these are real CFUW clubs. Each have chosen their own domain name. So something that says who they are, and the ending, they've chosen each of these. So there really is no hard fast, you have to choose one, and that's the only one that really fits your organization. You can choose whichever one you want. Are there free domains that you don't have to pay $10 to $20 a year? For sure, but usually whatever free thing, Wix, Weebly, WordPress, whatever one you're using, they want to put their name within your address. So it would be cfwsudbury.wix.com, and they would add their own bit into it. Many people don't like that. They like to have a short, really clear, identifiable thing. And for that, you're going to pay a little bit of money per year. Next, you're going to want to find a web hosting company. So you remember, this is the behind the walls, all the utilities, the place that really helps your house stay connected and run. So they service the site, meaning the website sits on their server. It's available at any time to the public. Your computer at home doesn't have to be on for your website to be active. It lives on your web hosting company's server. Many sell domains, so you can get both in the same place. Many have packages that include many different factors, and price really depends on how much traffic you expect or how much storage or memory you're going to use. So really large websites with a lot of functionality might cost more per month than a very simple, mostly text web page. And there are lots of different options out there, but generally it's about $5 to $25 a month you'll pay for the web hosting. Yes, there's free web hosting that you can find as well. Tends to have small storage. Again, you're going to have to accept in the domain name probably their name as well. You can have free web hosting and a paid domain, so you can take out that extra bit you don't want, but also take advantage of free web hosting, but expect to do more of the content coding and functionality yourself. With paid web hosting, they can provide even things like the web design services. Some hosts even give free hosting services to registered charities, so that might be an option for some of you. Next, pick a web design. The software can be free to $20 a month, depends what you use. As I said, many web hosting companies have within their packages the web design software that can be used to create the website. But there's also standalone software that is cost one time or monthly if you want different functionality. It all depends what you or the person you pay to maintain it is going to use. So you prepare your content, you upload it to the server, and someone has to maintain that. Now the labor is free if you have a member, say within your club, willing to do that for you, or if you want to pay an outside company to do it, it may cost a little more. And you want to make sure that your website is accessible. So someone who can hear and see fine, they can easily navigate your site, but someone who's deaf or blind, they have programs that can actually read websites to them or help them actually interpret that without viewing it. And so things like images have to have a description, and many of these web hosting and web design have accessibility wizards. So you can run the wizard and it'll tell you all the different parts that you are actually dysfunctional in. As I said, these are your house rooms. So you can have the menu on the side, menu on the top. These are the home pages of various CFUW sites. So you can see some people are lots of text, some people are lots of pictures. It all depends, what do you want people to see first when they visit your site? Next, we're going to start on social media. Now, last year, about this time, I think, I gave a whole hour on social media. So I'm just going to spend about 5 minutes on this. So think about websites as your home, but social media is sort of the newspaper. So how you disperse information outside of your business to the public. So it really, really needs to be part of your communication plan these days, because many people, especially in the younger generation, they aren't browsing the web for things. They're using social media, and that social media message may link back to your website where they can find out more information. If you don't have a website, you really don't even exist to younger people. And in some cases, if you don't have social media, they will never see you. And I must say, we as an organization of women working together for advocacy for women, we have a niche that's appealing and sought out by many women, and they are looking for organizations like us to be a part of. Now, social media in general is basically computer mediated, so a device that is used to talk and share ideas and posts, for good or bad. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of bad stuff out there too. Now, there are many, many, many different social media options used by many different people and companies to various effects. Three of the ones that sort of best fit the university women are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Facebook has, this is a few years old now, has over 1.3 billion users, they say. About 79% of internet users actually use Facebook. Less so for Twitter and LinkedIn, although Twitter, it's probably much higher than this now. LinkedIn is more professional network, so working women sort of post who they work for and more their professional portfolio of things. Twitter is more sharing what you think, sharing lots of stuff going on in the moment. And Facebook is sort of the same, but you can have longer messages and more photos and things like that. Now, the ratio of men to women who use these platforms is very different, but also the ages are very different. So yes, many people are on Facebook, but as you can see, using Twitter and LinkedIn, many more of the younger generation than the older generation are on these platforms. So if you want to choose one, choose Facebook, I guess. But really, you should be thinking of using multiple. And there are software that when you make a post, it can post to all of these different platforms at one time. So it's not, you don't have to copy paste everything to every different one unless you want to. Some people really tailor each message for the platform. I personally tend to do that because of the various differences in how long the message can be, and what you really want to convey has to be a bit different depending on the audience that you're going for. 97% of nonprofits are on Facebook. So if you're not on Facebook, you are one of the few that are not. Whenever you post on social media, definitely post it with a picture or a graphic or something that really catches the eye. Humans really like things that catch our eye. And anything with a photo will have many more clicks, many more sharing, and increase in tweets. And the advantages of using social media is it's highly accessible. So many people have computers and smartphones. Many people check them often. You know, they'll check them while they're getting breakfast ready. They'll check them as they're on the bus on the way home. They're always on their phone, it seems. And you're open to engage with anyone on the internet. Again, good and bad, depending on the people who like or dislike what you're saying. So this is how it works. You post something to a social media platform. Many different eyes, people see it. And some of them like it. So a couple of them might post it and then their friends see it, and so on and so on. But you got to think that they're actually cross-posting it to many different social media networks. Some people that don't have social media, some people might email them to say, hey, I saw something cool on Twitter. You should know about it. Or they might call a friend and say, oh, there's this event I saw on social media. I know you're not on it. You should know about it. So it's a way that you can actually get to people who are not on social media through the people that are. There are disadvantages because you do need internet, and not everybody has internet. Either they live in a place that doesn't have it or it's too expensive for them. Not everyone is on social media, but many of the key demographics we would like to diversify within our membership are. Once posted, it's out there forever. Consider it as such. So because people can take screenshots or take a picture of it, and even if you delete it, they still have the picture of it. So think of various organizations that post a tweet, but then they take it down later. Well, it still lives on because other people will take a picture of it. Spam, lots of problems can happen with just lots of junk being in there sometimes, but also trolling. So you've heard a lot about various politicians, especially women politicians, getting a lot of people threatening them because it's so impersonal. People feel much less inhibited to post inflammatory, swearing, off-topic messages, but you do have the option of blocking those people or reporting them. And there are rules in social media. So how do you use social media for events? For example, Twitter, you can designate a hashtag. Hashtag is something that's used in both Twitter and Instagram for your event. You can encourage attendees to use it, and that way it links all those different posts together. So the Walk to Kabul, Montreal participated in it and they posted photos. CFUW Ottawa didn't post about it because they don't seem to have, I couldn't find a tweet for it, which was strange. But the Afghan embassy highlighted CFUW Ottawa's photo and effort on the Walk to Kabul. So this Walk to Kabul hashtag is through all these different tweets by all these people for this particular event. Now you can have events on Facebook as well. Facebook events, you want to have a large photo, again, catch people's eye. People can say whether they're going or they're interested. This will show up on their friends' feeds as you're going or you're interested in going. And you can also directly invite some of your friends if you think that they might be interested. There's space for a little bit of text and sort of a summary of when and where your event's going to be. It also can link to your Facebook page. So if people find it through a friend, they can also go back and find out more about you. Another example here is another Facebook event, but as you can see, you can actually purchase tickets through this event. And when you do that, it opens up this encrypted little pop-up that says, okay, you can purchase this ticket for a specific amount. And I'll get more into online payments later, but just to show you, you can have free events or ticketed events. And you can also have your event Facebook Live. So it'll play live on your Facebook page if you would like to. And even things like Zoom have that option. This service is indicated below, support live stream. So you can live stream to Facebook, live stream to YouTube directly from Zoom meetings. Eventbrite is not really a social media platform, but you can use it as one place to list your event and then link that one event page to all your social media posts. And there you can have free events listed for free, no fee account, or you can sell tickets. Selling tickets, of course, has a fee, and either you can pass that fee on to your attendees, so they pay an extra amount on every ticket that pays for the fee, or you as the organizer can say, no, I want to keep the ticket $100, so I'm going to absorb that fee and pay the fee for the people, but I'll make less money. Here's a good example of an Eventbrite that CFUW St. Catharines did. As you can see, a lot more text can be used. You can have more photos. You can have links on the web. Here's tags, or also hashtags. These links, so if someone is looking for fundraisers virtually, they will find you if they search for one or two of those things. As you can see in this case, they wanted $10 per ticket and they passed along the fee to the ticket holder. So the total cost for each ticket was $11.62. And now it's graphics. So I'll stop sharing and Rachel will move on to graphics.
Alrighty, so just give me one moment here. Okay, so for graphics, CFUW National uses Canva to put together our graphic images. As Amy mentioned, it's really important to have a photo go along with whatever message you're trying to send out to grab people's attention. So a quick and easy way to design graphics and pictures for social media page is through the website Canva, which, as I said, is what CFUW National uses. So Canva offers a free subscription to create simple designs. To use Canva, you'll go to the website and click sign up in the top right corner and follow the steps to create an account. So as you can see, Canva has pre-made designs you can select from and edit to make designs within your club's content. So for example, if you were creating a Facebook post, you would select it on the site as shown below. So here you'll see we have all of these different templates that you can choose from with different designs, and you can follow the steps to kind of input your own club's information. And I'll show you some examples coming up, kind of what I mean on that. So this, as we know, this is kind of a quick presentation. So there are workshops online that can help you learn the site in just 10 minutes. And we will be sharing the slides, so you guys will have access to this link. And I find it's very, very user-friendly. You can kind of just pop things in as whatever works for you. So here are some examples from CFUW National's Facebook page using Canva. So these are some things that we put together. So when designing the post, Canva has an option to upload an image. This is where you would upload CFUW's logo to your post. As you can see, we usually do it in the top right-hand corner. And then for just as an example, as you can see for the Eid Mubarak post, this design was completely from Canva. We literally just took it and popped in the CFUW logo, and then we had the image to share with everyone, and then we posted it on our multiple social media channels. And then for graphics, there are other options, ones that I don't have direct experience with, but they're definitely things that you can look up if you're interested in trying something different. So other options that you can look into that are similar to Canva are Designer and Adobe Spark. So that's basically the rundown for just creating your own images to share on social media.
Rachel, so now I will share my screen again because I'm going to do the next section, which is on online virtual meetings. Now, most of you are very experienced now with online virtual meetings because you've been doing everything, say, on Zoom. Now, there's other meeting platforms like Skype, Cisco WebEx, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. There's lots of different platforms people use to meet. The CFUW in general, a lot of our stuff, like National uses Zoom. In Alberta, as the Alberta Council account, we use Zoom. Lots of people use Zoom. Now, there's lots of pros, no venue rental, so it can reduce your expenses. It provides access to members who do not drive, have weather concerns, have childcare concerns. They work long hours, so they don't have time to commute from their job to wherever your venue is. It allows speakers and members to join from wherever in the world they happen to be. So those people that don't join your club because they're snowbirds and are away half the year or they travel a lot, they can still actually join your club, and they can join from wherever they are in the world. As long as they have internet connectivity in their smartphone, they can join in on all the activities. Attendees can do other things like mind children, they can eat their dinner while they're watching the speaker because nobody can see them, and they can just listen and enjoy the content from the comfort of their own home. And of course, it's easily recorded like the meeting webinar we're doing right now. But there are cons to it. Many of us are missing that personal contact. There's no body language. You can't really interpret the way people and the tone of how people are talking sometimes. It does require having internet and a device of some kind, computer, smartphone, but non-members can also easily come to meetings, which you may or may not want. All they need is the link to your meeting or the information regarding meeting ID and password and such. So you could have people come in and sort of so-called meeting bomb, Zoom bomb your meeting, which may interrupt you. It's harder to have those side conversations that can be so important in making those sort of friendship and connections. You could have unintended interruptions from family, pets, phone calls. One of the reasons we mute everybody usually when we have speakers talking. Communications can become more difficult if you're having a meeting because you don't see the body language, you can accidentally overtalk other people. So you end up interrupting each other and then both saying sorry and then both going again. Sometimes it's difficult if you have a lot of people attending to see when people want to talk, to see the hands up. And so there are definitely limitations to it. There's a thing called the Zoom fatigue or virtual meeting fatigue, because your brain uses different capacities when it's actually viewing something in person versus viewing something on a computer screen. So that's why if you are having a virtual meeting, you can't have one as long as you would have in person. You want to shorten it. So you'll notice if, like even the national AGM, it's not morning through afternoon, like 8 hours with a few breaks. They cut it down into shorter periods so that people don't get completely burnt out. You also need a person that can run the online meeting as the host or IT support. You need someone that has some technology knowledge that sort of knows what they're doing, that can sort of let people in, handle technology issues people have, and such like that. So all of you have been doing this. You have one person who's handling the technical support sort of thing, the letting people in, starting the meeting, and you have your speaker coming in, usually from their own laptop, wherever they are, and you're making sure all your audience members, either by phone or one of their devices, all connecting into the same meeting, and it really relies on your internet connection. Now, I'm really pushing as the regional director for Alberta and in general for hybrid meetings. Once we go back to meeting in person, I would really like clubs to consider doing both in-person and virtual meetings at the same time. There are pros and cons to doing this, but I think it's very important, again, those members that don't join your club because they feel they just don't have the time for all those reasons I listed, like childcare or the weather, or they don't drive anymore, you can still include all those people in your in-person meetings. So some people like the in-person meetings, well, they can come in person. Some people can join virtually. You can still have a speaker from anywhere in the world. And, you know, one of the most important things these days we all think about is those people that feel under the weather, they would still come to the in-person meeting before because they're like, oh, it'll be fine. You know, I'll just take a cough drop. But they may spread the virus to all your other members. Well, maybe if they're feeling under the weather, but they can still participate from home, they'll decide to stay home and maybe not spread colds and flus to everybody else. It can be more expensive, as you will have, of course, your in-person venue cost and the IT cost, whatever that may be, whether it's for the Zoom platform or maybe you're paying a person to actually help you with all your technology needs. It can be hard to coordinate between the in-person audience and the virtual audience, say when it comes to questions. But if you get a person that can really run the online meeting, do the IT support in conjunction with the in-person technology, they can facilitate participation by both audiences. So it sort of depends on the skill of the person you have doing your technology support. So here's the technology for in-person meetings. I know there's a lot on this slide. This is sort of from the more detailed presentation I've given, but the overall is this is how everybody did it usually before COVID happened. You would have laptop, computer of some kind, put a cable between it and the projector, pointed at the screen, your speaker stood at a podium, and everybody watched the presentation. So what is a hybrid meeting? Well, one computer, again, that hardwired to projector showing on the screen, all your in-person people, that person can also take that presentation and show it, both audio and visual, to all your audience, with the speaker either in person or the speaker being anywhere in the world. Either way, you can combine those two into the so-called hybrid, meaning both in-person and virtual. Again, it does take some technology skill and knowledge, but really not as much. It's not as daunting as most people think it is. And also, the in-person section doesn't necessarily have to be the same person doing the virtual and the in-person. So someone like me as regional director for Alberta, who runs the Alberta Zoom account, I can do all the Zoom part for, say, CFUW Calgary on my end, and all they have to do in Calgary is set up a smartphone or a tablet, either pointed at the screen or the speaker, and I can link that in and do the host. So if they're comfortable doing the in-person technology, smartphone, and I can handle the rest of the virtual stuff for them. So there are variations in what is needed for those things. And Rachel's now going to talk about the national Zoom account.
Alrighty. Okay, so just a quick note that on using CFUW's national Zoom account. So here you'll be able to click the link that I've embedded into the presentation once we send this out. So to request a Zoom booking form, Zoom booking meeting with CFUW National, there's just a form that I'd have you fill out, and then you'd send it over to my email, letting me know date, time, if you need any assistance. And yeah, so we have the capacity to host, we have 10 different accounts. So I've never really had any issues with overbooking, because we do have a lot of space for everyone. If you do want to book something through National, so that you have up to 300 participants and an endless amount of time to host your meeting, opposed to the free one where you get cut off at a certain point. So it's just a note that even though we've talked about a few different platforms that can be really great, please note that CFUW National Office, we only have the capacity right now to help with Zoom bookings and assistance, not the other platforms that were mentioned, just in terms of the capacity that we currently have. So there you have it.
And Rachel, let people know how many people they can have.
Yeah, so you can have up to 300 people joining your meeting.
So I'm going to move on to the next section in a moment, but I want to also mention too, like Alberta Council has a professional Zoom account, so we can go beyond the 40 minutes, but our limit's 100. So it's $200 a year. We can only have 100 people. So there are times where we've had public events where I can log into the CFUW National, take over the hosting duties, but have the capacity to have the 300 people. So don't think that you're pigeonholed into one thing. We can all help each other out. And like Alberta provides it free to all the Alberta clubs, CFUW National provides it free to all clubs that are interested. So that can cut down on that cost I was talking about with the hybrid meetings being venue and IT, because there are services that different levels of the organization are providing free. Now I'm going to move on to online virtual storage. So what is that and what do you use it for? So this is if you want to put files out there in the cloud, so your files, whatever they may be, video, application forms, documents, whatever, sits out on a server so that any people you give access to can see those documents 24/7. So you don't have to share them through email. You don't have to clog everybody's email up. They sit out there. And they can be anywhere from free to up to $100 a month. Depends on what storage size you want, number of files, but it provides for this easy sharing and collaboration of files. Everybody looks at the same file and change the same file. There isn't 5 different versions floating around everybody's internet at the same time. Again, like everything else, it requires internet and a device. And there should be one person that sort of manages the online storage so that the files don't end up being a huge clutter. So make sure things are in folders and organized, and sort of make sure that, say, you don't go over your limit if you're using, say, a free account. Now, many of you probably don't know this, but if you have a Google Gmail account, if you have an Apple email account, you have an Outlook or Hotmail sort of MSN account, you actually have a free level of online storage already that you may not be using. Gmail has Google Drive, the Apple email has iCloud, and the Outlook has OneDrive. These are about 5 to 15 gigabytes of free storage. Now, they basically store your email, and so some of your email takes up some of that storage, but there's also this sort of online system. So Google Drive, you can keep those to yourself, but you will see in the courses we give later on in the year, you can also assign, so you can say, okay, certain people, I want them to be able to see this file or this folder of files. And you can give access to people based on usually by their email address. It gives them access. There's also some standalone options that you may have heard of, like Dropbox, Box, Sync.com. These have a free level and they also have paid levels. They're separate from sort of your email account. But with your email account, there's no extra account, no extra password. You automatically have access to all of these if you have an email account with them. And that's really short. As I said, some sections are going to be shorter than others. Now we're going to move on to newsletters, which Rachel is going to go over.
Hey, just give me one moment. My computer's acting up a bit here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, can everyone see it right now?
Yes.
I know this is a webinar on technology, and of course my computer is starting to flash weird colors at me. So one moment here, just give me 1 second, sorry.
For some reason, it wants to save changes to your file.
So yeah. Okay, just waiting to see if it will go back to normal. Very sorry about this. Okay, so yeah, my computer is flashing at me and I think there's something wrong with it. So I will just talk to MailChimp without being able to see my slides. So just let me know if I'm missing anything. Amy, you can feel
Rachel,
free.
do you want me to go on to the next section so you can sort of sort out your computer will come
Yeah,
back?
if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
No, okay, it stopped. It stopped.
Okay. See, technology things happen. You just got to roll with it.
Okay, sorry, that threw me off a bit. So here we are. So everyone can see the online newsletters MailChimp page now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for your patience. I think I will have to give my computer an update soon. So MailChimp is what we use at CFUW National to send out all of our newsletters. So you've probably subscribed to our newsletters and you've seen them come in, and they all kind of have a similar look to them. And that's because we use the MailChimp template. So MailChimp offers a free marketing plan for beginners, which includes up to 2,000 contacts and 10,000 sends per month. So what that means is you can send your newsletter to 2,000 contacts for free, which should be enough for your club size. And you can send out up to 10,000 newsletters a month, which I would not recommend. That's a lot of newsletters. So MailChimp offers design templates that make the sending out of your newsletters as seamless as possible. So basically, if you set up one template that you like each time you use MailChimp, you can just use that same design over and over again, which makes it really easy. And here's a link if you have more time on a tutorial on how to learn how to use MailChimp in just 16 minutes. So it's a pretty user-friendly option that I would personally recommend, and it's free. In terms of newsletters, what to send out when you're putting together a MailChimp newsletter campaign template. So here's kind of a little example. I took a screenshot of what we do at CFUW National. So for example, we have a sharing corner. That's where we put out all of club's webinars and events and community information that they want to share. So newsletters give you an opportunity to share important information with your clubs. Some of those things can include important updates from nationals, so you can copy and paste things that we have sent out that you want to share with your clubs, club events and webinars taking place, community events your club has been involved in, news and updates about the club and its members, and whatever else you prefer. So that's MailChimp for you.
Now you may be wondering why we're not answering questions as yet. We'll answer many of her questions I see you're putting in the chat at the end. Okay, and next I'm going to talk about the option of, well, that's weird. My Zoom, you're sharing your screen. Oh, my Zoom window stopped displaying everybody. It's as if somebody else, oh, here we go. Sorry. See, even the best of us, we still have issues with them well. Because computers are sometimes glitchy for no reason. And I'm sure all of you know, computers know when you're in a rush or there's something important. That's, as Rachel said, their computer decides, guess what, I'm gonna restart and update right now.
My computer has never did what it's just done, ever, except for this moment. So just know that there will always be hiccups, and there's never a reason to be embarrassed or feel like you can't do it.
Yeah, we all have issues. So online virtual payments. So what is this? So go on Amazon, you make a purchase, things like that, or you transfer money person to person. That is you purchasing things, transferring money online. Now there's lots of pros to this because you don't need any special cards or special accounts. You have credit cards, you have your bank account. You can use those to purchase items, transfer money. So something you might use as foreign club activities is you may want to accept virtual online payments for, say, your membership dues. Now, what's some of the pros of this are it's an instant transfer of funds. So there's no waiting for checks to clear and things like that. The money is directly put into your account and it's there. No checks are required, and Canadian check usage has dropped 30% in the last 5 years. And many of your younger age demographics you may be trying to encourage to become members, they don't even have checks anymore. They don't use cash. They really only use electronic payments. So if you say, oh, we only accept cash or check, they're going to look at you like, what do you mean? I don't even know how to do that because I pay for everything within the virtual world. And you may have seen at some restaurants or stores, or say even the farmer's market, somebody will have like an iPad and they'll have a little hardware, little piece of equipment attached to that tablet, which they swipe your card through. That's sort of a credit card reader. It can be attached to your computer. And so although it's still an online virtual payment and that the payment is moving from your credit card to their account in the online virtual world, you can still take online virtual payments in person if you want. But there are some cons. Most of these options do require fees for services, either monthly or per transaction, depending on the service you choose. There, of course, is the possibility of your account information or the account itself being hacked. But many of these services have, this is their whole business. So they have encryption keys. It's encrypted from the credit card all the way to the bank account. They really try and keep things very secure. Depending on the bank account you have that you hold your CFUW club funds in, you may need a different account to accept electronic means. Most of them do accept them no matter what. But also you may think, you know, just to be sure, I will keep my operating funds in one bank account and I will just set up a second bank account that solely is for accepting electronic funds. And that way you can just move those electronic funds between accounts when you want to. That could be a way, if you just want that little bit of extra security, to not link all of your operating funds to this electronic payment system. But as I said, it is very secure these days. Purchases are encrypted for security. There's many guarantees by the credit cards that'll be secure with you get your money back if there's any kind of fraud in there. But really, most of the fraud comes down to user error. You don't make your password strong enough. You put too much information out on the internet and people can guess your password or somehow figure out what your access codes are. So something to consider, but the reality is it is pretty safe these days, as it is a very common way that people now pay for things. And some of the options out there, although they require fees, they do have discounted rates for nonprofit organizations and even more of a discount if you're a charitable organization. So still costs something, but not a lot. So how much do people really use online virtual payments? Probably more than you think. As of 2019 in Canada, look how many transactions are by just electronic funds transfer. So that's sort of bank to bank. So someone transfers money directly from myself to another person. Those are always free bank to bank e-transfers. Even if you're using Google Pay, Venmo, PayPal, any of these services, if you're just going bank account to bank account, it's always free. If you use a credit card, the credit cards always charge about 3%. So 62% of the transactions are actually going by electronic funds transfer. 14% are by credit card. 11% are by other online transfer, and only 12% these days are by cash or check. So if you don't have any of these electronic funds, you only have cash or check, only 12% of people are really using that these days. And these younger generations are using electronic funds transfer almost all the time. And this is the kind of sort of little window portal you can put on your website. All these different options will sort of, you can automatically embed this. You don't have to design it, it'll embed it for you, where people can choose whether they want to pay by credit card, by PayPal, or wire transfer. Wire transfer is the bank to bank e-transfer. They put in their information. This is all through the service, which, as I said, is totally encrypted. They handle all the security. And with credit cards, you may not know this, but every time you use a credit card versus cash at any store, the store is actually getting charged about 3% or maybe a little less if they have a deal for every one of those credit card transactions. But they've decided to absorb that fee into the cost of doing business. So you don't see any difference in price if you pay for cash or you pay by credit card. Now, you may have been to some places where they're like, well, if you pay by cash, you get a 10% discount or something, because some people prefer to be in cash and then they're not paying that 3% credit card fee to somebody else. So just keep that in mind.
3 years, yeah.
So that is general overview of how online virtual payments work. Yeah. So next, we've talked about all the different things related to various pieces of technology. Now we're going to talk about how do you combine those technologies to do various things. So you're having a meeting or event. Here is all the different items we've talked about. how do you use all these different multiple technologies to say, put on a meeting or event. So on the website, you're going to list your event so your members and the public can know you're putting on an event. On social media, you can advertise your event on the various platforms before your event. If it's a longer event, say like conference or AGM or something, you might want to have people posting using a hashtag or something so it links that all together. Post all, notable points different speakers make, and sort of it creates a sort of conversation as your event's going on. And you can post after about the event, photos, accomplishments that happened, to sort of say, hey, look, we had a fun time doing this great event. Just like the Walk to Kabul, after the event, people posted photos of what they did during the event. As Rachel mentioned, graphics or photos are very key to create that visual attraction to your event, whether it's on your website, social media, flyers you put out, and you want to sort of coordinate those graphics. So whenever somebody sees that graphic, they identify it with your event. In virtual meetings, of course, you're using technology. Say if you have your event online, you're of course using all that technology. Online storage options, maybe you want to store your graphics, your flyers, or your documents for the event online somewhere, whether it's part of your website or there's so many documents you don't have any more storage space, you can use one of your other storage options and people really won't see the difference that, oh, this document isn't stored on your website versus some online storage. They won't even see that. That's a behind the scenes thing where you are facilitating the accessibility of all your information. Your online newsletters, as Rachel mentioned, you can send information about your event to your members or a mailing list, have an engaging newsletter to say, hey, we're having this event coming up. If you have an event, say you're going to vote on something or discuss something, or say you want to poll people before you come into the meeting, say, what topics do you feel you want to hear about most from the speaker or something? You can actually create a survey before, during, or after your meeting to gauge people's responses. So before, as I said, if you want to say, what topics do you want to hear the speaker talk about? You could do during if you're going to have a vote, or you can do it after your meeting. Say if you want, please evaluate this webinar after we give it. We can send out a survey and say, how did you enjoy it? Do you wish there was anything good or bad, etc. Online payment options, if you actually have a fundraiser event going on, you can charge for tickets or donations or silent auction items. So here's an example. CFW Aurelia this year had this Homes for Scholarships. This is the first time they did their homes tour virtually. And they had this very standard graphics of this great flyer. They put it on their website, right on their homepage. So that's the first thing people see if they came to their homepage. They and other CFUW clubs tweeted out that this was going on using the graphic, both on Twitter and on Facebook. On Facebook, they posted saying, oh, only 6 more sleeps left until this great event, buy tickets now. And they, every few days, could like post different social media things, each having the same sort of graphical theme or scheme to it so that people connected it with that event. As I said, they had this great graphics flyer. They could also send out by email to people. I didn't actually attend, so I can't show you an example of their virtual walkthrough, but they described it as, interior designers and architects would explain the home as you walked through it, and they virtually showed you the entire home. So they sold tickets, and only those who bought tickets could actually see the indoor presentation and explanation of all the different furniture and the way the houses were put together. Also on their event page, they had, hey, you bought tickets, do you also want to donate? Because all of this fundraiser and donations go to scholarships and all these great women. Again, a great graphic, donate now. You click on that button, it'll take you to one of those virtual online payment portals and people can donate right into your account. Rachel's going to talk about how to combine technologies like Eventbrite and Zoom now.
Alrighty. So Eventbrite can be a useful tool if you're looking to advertise your event or if you are planning to charge a price for the event. So hopefully, as most of you know, if you want to register for this year's AGM, we're using Eventbrite for registration tracking. So to use Eventbrite, you would go to their website, eventbrite.com, and follow the steps to create an account and set up an event. And once again, for more detailed instructions, there's just a website link here you can look at later. So once your event has been set up, you can connect your Eventbrite event with your Zoom invitation. So you would go to the online event page, which I took a screenshot of here in your event setup. And then here it's kind of small, don't know if you can see it, but you can see that it says connect Zoom. So from there, the people that registered for the meeting will receive an email with the Zoom meeting link. So that's what brings Eventbrite and Zoom and kind of integrates them together so that you can have Eventbrite to have an event where people have to purchase tickets, which is great if you're having a fundraiser or anything like that. And then you can still connect it through your Zoom account so that you have the platform ready to go. So there you have it.
Okay, and the next example I have is something I did for my home club, CFUW Edmonton, where because the school's offices were closed and students weren't even on campus this year, they were doing it remotely. So University of Alberta women students, they could have been in Ontario at their parents' place taking online classes. So the previous system required them to have their application package all printed out, all filled out and signed, and they would deliver it as an envelope package into one of the offices on campus. Well, obviously that was not possible this year. And so I said, well, we can use a lot of different ways, and yes, it's possible. We can make it a completely online system this year. So I worked with the bursaries first and then the scholarship convener, and we worked on, here's different things. I can tailor it for exactly what you want, do what works for you. And here's an example of sort of how that works. So your bursaries and scholarships, you likely already did this even pre-COVID, where you listed your application period on your website, links to your application form, different information about it. On social media, before you would advertise your scholarships, like, okay, it's open now, anybody can apply, people share it around. After, you can post about the winners of the awards and get more sort of publicity, like, look, we awarded all this great money to all these great worthy women students. Graphics, again, create visual graphics so that your award gets attention, whether it be on your website, social media, flyers, that even can, even flyers that are being pulled up on actual physical bulletin boards once we get past COVID, of course, when people are back on campus. The virtual meeting platforms like Zoom, you can use the technology to facilitate all your application readers coming together, evaluating the applications, having discussions, decide who gets interviews. And you can also use them to conduct interviews with your applicants, because again, your applicants may be anywhere in the world and you don't have to have them commute to you. You can have these nice interactions via Skype, Zoom, whatever platform works for you. Again, whether it be on your website or you've run out of storage and you need an online storage option separately, you can store all the graphics, flyers, documents for the award on a separate server. Online newsletters to send out information to the award application period, to your members, to a wider mailing list. You can notify your members and wider mailing list of, hey, we have all our winners. Aren't these great? And, celebrate all these women students. Highlight them. Your online surveys. Now, the survey can be used and you can turn it into your award application form because they're just answering questions, filling in information, just like any other survey. So you can make your application form digital this way. And just as a side note, same thing can happen with your membership forms. Turning them virtual can be as simple as creating an online survey that is your membership form and getting all the information that way as well, instead of people having to fill it out on paper and mail it into you. You can have online payment options if you charge a fee for applicants. At CFUW Edmonton, we don't charge a fee for people applying for any of our awards, so we didn't actually institute any of the online payment systems, but it is an option. And email, you can set up additional free specific emails for receiving the applications, the transcripts, the reference letters. And so in that way, you can combine all the technologies and create an online system. So here's an example of what that would look like. So CFW Edmonton, we have our bursary awards. Unfortunately, I didn't save the old version but ideally here it would have a listing of all the different requirements. Click here for the application form, click here for the email to submit all your application documents and things like that. So you advertise it on your website and have a home for it where the students can come and read all the information. You advertise it on social media that, hey, we have a student bursary, it's going out. Twitter, Facebook, send it out there, have all your members and other people, really spread the word about it. This was great. CFUW Nepean, I'm probably saying that wrong, but their club actually during COVID delivered the checks for their awardees and did it outside and had a little social media thing. So they took a picture and said, hey, congratulations to all the scholarship winners and kudos and celebrated their winners using a photo on their social media. So here's what I mean by a survey application form. So you turn your survey, you can have separate sections. So a section for personal information with a bunch of questions, the educational section, bunch of questions, personal references, they can list, usually you request 3 different names with contact info. And then you have, okay, by submitting this, you agree that you are registered status at University of Alberta. After submitting this form, be aware you must also submit, the other application things. So we have bursary at cfuwedmonton.org. We've always used this for bursary inquiries. But now that we went online, we said, well, we don't want to overload this email account with all the application info because usually there's privacy concerns and you want to delete all that application info a year or so after all your applicants come in so that you no longer hold their private information. So what we did was the Google form, that's this, was the application form. And we asked for all the submission of your application documents to go to this. And you may notice with our website, we have emails, but for this, I made bursaryapp@gmail.com because I was taking advantage of that Google Drive online storage, all the transcripts and application documents that can take up a lot of room, didn't bog down our email server and take up a lot of storage space because we use the Google Drive space. And again, organize all the application documents by person. All your readers can actually go through Google Drive, see all the same documents. There's no taking giant piles of papers from house to house to house so all the readers read. And then the online meeting portion, again, you can use your Zoom meeting for your reader meeting, to evaluate all your applicants and do all your applicant interviews. The last combining technology, a couple clubs have run silent auctions this year. Even during COVID, they wanted to run a fundraiser, and there are various ways to do that. So say you want to run a silent auction. You can list the auction on your website, information about different items if you want, use social media before to advertise, during it so you can encourage bidding, because usually silent auctions, especially virtually, they can run for a week or 2 weeks as people bid over that time. And then after, you can really advertise how much you raised and what it's going to. Again, with the graphics, creating a visual attraction, you can photograph your auction items, make it very enticing for people to bid on it. You can have a virtual meeting at which you're gonna sort of end your silent auction. So actually make it sort of a celebratory, okay, we're gonna end the silent auction in an hour, get your final bids in, and make it sort of a live announcement event at the end. Online storage, again, for storing various documents, using newsletters to get the word out. Online surveys can be used by people donating items, because when they donate items, you can have them fill in what is the item, how much does it cost, what's the minimum bid. So you don't have to have people filling out pieces of paper. You can get all that information electronically. So you have that information ahead of time, and maybe a week later, they might actually bring the item to whoever's holding all the items or taking photos of the items. Online payment options. Winners, if you want, can pay for the silent auction items electronically. So with the club I know of that ran a silent auction and they sent us sort of how they did it, they actually didn't take online payment options. They said, if you're bidding in the silent auction, we will deliver for free and we will pick up payment at the time of delivery, but you must live within the city limits. So in that way, they sort of cut out shipping costs, but they also cut out that online payment fee. But it did, it was a little more complex for them because they did have to pick up payments and deliver items. There is specific auction platforms that you can use, so it can display items, take payments if you want, and it'll give you statistics on how many people bid and when people were actively bidding. One of those auction platforms is 32 Auctions. That's what the one CFUW club that you use this year. But even CFUW National has had online auctions this past year. The Charitable Trust had one. They advertised it on their website. They advertised it on social media. This is from a couple different auctions, but this is the 32 Auctions. You can actually highlight specific items on social media to say, hey, look at this item, one of many items available on our silent auction. Come check out the items. So it sort of piques interest and draws people in on social media. And as I said, 32 Auctions, this is what it looks like. So CFUW National's Charitable Trust, about the auction, about the organization, how much to raise, what it's going to. This is sort of an example of various items done by a different organization. So they can say you have a minimum bid or a certain limit where if people bid the full amount, they automatically get it. So they can actually bid, when things are sold, when things aren't available anymore. And that's it for combining technologies. There's lots of other ways, but those were sort of the main examples we felt were most relevant to CFUW clubs. And when we were first thinking about this webinar, we thought, there's too many different technologies. I mean, I spent a whole hour last year talking about social media, and I didn't even get to sort of step-by-step how you even start an account, do posts and things like that. So that's why we decided we were going to spend about 5 minutes on every topic, give you a little brief overview. And what Rachel and I are going to do is the topics we talked about, we're going to put together basically a technology course of lessons. And what we're going to do is we're going to pre-record them, so they will be on demand for you. You can take them whenever you want. You can pause, rewind, follow the detailed step-by-step information, and go at your own pace to add any of these technologies to your clubs. Because some people may already have a website, but they really want to do social media. So they won't have to sit through the whole website portion before we get to social media. So you can pick and choose which ones you want to do. And we'll be putting that together over time. And I'm sure in the national newsletter, we will have announcements when each of those sections come out. So like hybrid meetings, some of you were interested in, that'll be a whole separate thing. Some will be longer, some will be shorter, there'll be various durations, but they will give you more detailed information of how to actually put together and step-by-step how to do these things. Rachel, anything you would like to add?
Not necessarily, but hopefully Amy and I will get working on that sometime over the summer, and we'll be able to provide you with some things that you're interested in. Like we saw in the chat, a lot of people are interested in the hybrid meetings, and Amy knows a lot about that, so I'm sure it will be hopefully very informative.
So it's Catherine Wilkinson here. So I just asked Rachel to unmute me because I wanted to thank Amy and Rachel for all the work that they've done on this. I think they've just given us kind of a taster here of what we could be doing, and thank them both so much for doing this today and for committing to actually making this into a course going forward. I think the pandemic pushed us to do so much more virtually than we done previously. But there's still so much more that we can do. So thank you both. It was excellent.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you everyone for coming out today.
Yeah, thank you. So now I'm going to look through the chat and just sort of look at questions. Hybrid meetings, people want to, I mentioned my slides are part of a larger presentation. So at the Alberta Council AGM, I did a more detailed sort of presentation for the Alberta clubs in general to try and encourage them to do hybrid meetings, sort of a bit more detail on how to do it. But again, it'll be one of the sort of lessons you can take the whole course or just one bit, and it'll be detailed into what equipment you need, how to put it together from like you plug this into this port and how things go. Cause I know some of you are really starting at sort of square one. Many will also link to other resources if you really are sort of basic how to use a computer 101. There'll be a link. Obviously, the more advanced people, you can skip that and you can go to more like, okay, I want to start a social media account now, or things like that. When talking about social media, you didn't mention Instagram. Yeah, many clubs have started using Instagram. That's great. Instagram is a social media platform which is more, it really focuses on the visual end. So post a photo, maybe a little caption, bunch of hashtags, and same sort of thing. People follow you, people make Instagram posts, and it's very visual. And some CFUW clubs have Instagram accounts, and many young people are on Instagram or TikTok, if you've heard of that. TikTok's sort of videos and they're short. So basically they're tailored to the very short attention span of many people on social media today. So there's lots of different platforms. Again, in the more longer social media, sort of more step-by-step stuff, we can go into how to do an Instagram account, how to manage one. And as I said, there is various platforms like there's something called TweetDeck, and there's things like and other programs where you create a post and it'll send that same post to all your platforms. So it reduces the work, and you can pre-schedule them. So you can create them early and they will automatically post to your various social media platforms, say on International Women's Day. You can do all the work beforehand of creating the post, and it at the time you designate, it'll then send it all out. So it goes out on the day and you don't forget, you're not late. And so having that pre-planning is really helpful. Let's see. People find they're missing a lot of info by not being on Instagram. Yeah, it really depends how people are using. Usually people who are on Instagram are usually also on Facebook or also on Twitter. So sometimes you'll see the same posts again, as I said, on different platforms. So they're trying to get to all those different audiences because each one is a different audience of both culture and age and location. So you really have to think, who do I want to target when you're choosing various social media platforms to spend your time using? E-transfers may be difficult if 2 signatures required. Okay, so yes, most clubs have 2-signature authentication to pay people reimbursement. I'm not saying that necessarily goes away, but I know like our treasurer a couple times during COVID, she has e-transferred a reimbursement to me from her personal account, then reimbursed herself. That was sort of lockdown, nobody could really go anywhere, and that was the safest way to do it. Not really advisable if you're trying to handle CFUW club funds to do that a lot, but if need be, sometimes you can do it. But as far as membership fees coming in, of course, people don't require 2 signatures on their bank accounts, so they can easily e-transfer into you, even if you still require checks with 2 signatures to say reimburse people. Can a club also use this process to pay ongoing subscriptions for services? Yes. Zoom, MailChimp, Squarespace, although they usually you put your credit card into their system, they handle the payments, whether they're automatic or manual. So yes, it's an online payment system, but you're not managing it, or you're not having to put it on your website or anything. So many people these days pay bills online. And when the internet goes down, it's amazing how connected our lives are to the internet now and how much we rely on online payments in order to pay bills, property taxes, everything like that.
Yeah, I pay my rent through e-transfer, so there you have it.
Yeah, I pay my, like when I went to school for my master's these past few years, I e-transferred my tuition, and I can e-transfer my property taxes for my condo to the city of Edmonton, just a few clicks, goes right out of my bank account. I don't have to deal with checks or going to the bank or going to the city office. Very quick and easy. Let's see. I think in Canada, credit card companies' agreements mean that you cannot offer a deal for cash. Not totally sure what that means, whether that's the cash back portion. When I mentioned the deal for cash, I meant like individual stores can say, I'll give you a little bit of a discount because then I don't have to pay the credit card. They make that choice at their level. So the credit card doesn't even know that. Usually if you're getting cash back from a credit card, that's a whole nother fee into itself. How can we get a copy of the presentation afterwards? Rachel will be sending out a copy of the presentation. We will send it out as a PDF. But again, this is sort of your introduction to various technologies. There'll be many more resources and videos to come later on.
Yeah, and I'll try to send this by the end of the week, so.
Yeah, and as you saw when you joined, you gave permission. This is all being recorded. It will be available after, especially to all those people that had to leave early for various reasons. Let's see. Thank you for all the compliments. Apparently a lot of people really liked the presentation. Let's see. Instagram question. I think I answered the Instagram question. Hybrid meetings need to be concerned about the acoustics and the lighting of your venue. Yes, it all depends. So that's why either you can put, say, your device at the back of the room, but you got to be aware you may have to hook the mic into your device, or maybe you want to put the smartphone on a little pad right in front of the speaker so you get the speaker. Now, sometimes with that, if people can only see the speaker, well, someone else may show the presentation. So the speaker showing the presentation in person, and then the person who's hosting the Zoom account has a copy of those slides and is moving the slides along at the same pace as the speaker. So that way both sides get the same information. Our bank told me when we did the signing authority change that even if you need 2 signatures for a check, that with the technology, the check reader does not look at the signatures. Well, that's interesting. That came from Sydney Dyke. Look forward to the courses. For small clubs, using online social media can be a problem. We have enough trouble getting people to do basic jobs and limited people. True. So what do you do when it comes to that? One thing I did this year was, as regional director, I started an Alberta Council social media account so that the smaller clubs and clubs that don't have a social media presence, I can sort of be that for them. I can promote their events through social media. I can kind of take over some of those duties, but yeah, generally you do want to assign sort of a person or a couple people to be the ones managing the account, but take this as an opportunity that even if you don't have any members who know how to do all these things, consider, say, making it an internship for a communications major. They're looking for real world experience for their career, and you are a nonprofit that can offer them an internship where they handle your social media, maybe even their website content, whatever you want to do. They get real world experience and you get the benefit of this being second nature to them. And there are ways where you can say, okay, I want to pre-approve everything you're going to post if you really want to sort of micromanage it, or you can say, I give you permission to post on behalf of us. These are the guidelines of various, restrictions I would like you to keep to as far as what you can and can't say, or how you want them to refer to your club and such. So consider it as an opportunity to recruit in a student and give them real world experience if you don't have someone within your club that has that experience, both with websites, social media, even with IT support. There are computer IT support majors who are looking for that real world experience and can help out you as a nonprofit. And they, as I said, get real world experience to help them with their career. That's it for the questions. So that are in the chat. So at that point, I guess we will call an end to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for CFUW National for hosting and asking me and me then asking Rachel to help out on various things. I don't know a lot about sort of the graphics side of it necessarily. I use Photoshop and other things personally, but the graphics platforms like Canvas and stuff I haven't used. So, and if you've noticed, CFUW National social media presence has been much higher this past year, and it's been really good to see and get sort of exposure out there for all of us.
And I have no skills with Photoshop whatsoever or graphics, so Canva makes me feel like I actually have skills. So
Yeah, there's lots of tools out there, free, pay for some. So yeah, there's fees to all these different technologies, but there's also so many free options, you know. MailChimp, there's lots of free capacity. And then if you want to do more, there is, you know, fees charged at a higher level, but many of these technologies out there, they have free services that you can take advantage of. So it's not a huge burden on your, you know, dwindling membership dues and such like that. So thank you all for coming, and look forward to this recording going out to all of you, and you'll get the slides. And if you know anybody who you think could use this, CFUW or otherwise, refer them to the recording when it comes out.
yes, thank you,
Thank
Amy,
you all for
and
coming.
have a nice afternoon, everyone. Bye now.
Bye now.